One day, a girl dreams of continuing to live even after her death. Kakeru wakes up and finds himself in the middle of a party. He tells his friend Ushio that he just had a weird dream. Ushio tells him to stay present and enjoy the party. However, Kakeru isn't really in the mood since he was only dragged there by Ushio. He complains that his sleepy mood is Ushio's fault because of all the noise he made while arranging their room. Ushio laughs good-naturedly and apologizes for making Kakeru put up with him. Kakeru sighs as he studies the people in front of him. Suddenly, the group begins clapping and singing happy birthday. He gives them all a disgusted look and Ushio questions him about it. Kakeru responds that the way everyone is acting is disgusting. When Ushio checks to see what he means, he notices several guys comedically trying to impress some of the girls in the room. Some people laugh at their antics and Ushio joins in. He also finds it amusing that Kakeru seems so appalled by everything. Still, he knows Kakeru is simply being honest and isn't actually a bad person. He tells Kakeru that everyone in the room is just trying to make new friends. Suddenly, one of the guys calls for everyone's attention. He announces that he has something important to say and asks a girl named Yuko to stand up. Yuko cautiously rises and the guy immediately confesses, then asks if they could start dating. The crowd begins cheering for her to accept, but Yuko bows apologetically, saying that he isn't her type. The guy stares at her in disbelief, so she repeats herself, causing the room to burst into laughter at her blunt rejection. Ushio laughs and tries to get Kakeru to react as well. Kakeru refuses, saying he already dislikes attention seekers like that guy. Ushio reasons that everyone is simply hoping for a fresh start now that they're in college. Kakeru insists that he isn't the type who enjoys that sort of drama and prefers a calm life. He even admits that if Ushio hadn't dragged him, he never would have attended the welcome party. Since Kakeru says he prefers calm, Ushio invites him to sit at the table where Yuko and her friend Koharu are eating. Kakeru observes them from afar and notices how pretty they both are, making him think approaching them is a bad idea. Unfortunately, Ushio is already dragging him out of his seat. The two of them stop in front of the girls and Ushio shamelessly asks if they can join them. Kakeru quietly tries to convince him to leave, but Ushio insists they'll be fine. After sitting down, the two boys introduce themselves as roommates. The girls politely introduce themselves in return, and Kakeru notices how refined and distant Koharu seems. He then realizes that Koharu appears to be staring past him, so he turns around to see what she's looking at. He doesn't notice anything unusual. When he looks back, he realizes she's actually feeling around the table for something. Yuko notices and gently tells Koharu that her drink is right in front of her. After finding her glass, Koharu thanks Yuko and takes a drink. Finding the interaction unusual, Ushio asks if Koharu has poor eyesight. Koharu calmly confirms that she's actually blind. After the party, some of the other students decide to continue partying somewhere else. Yuko quietly tells Kakeru that several of the guys left their table the moment they found out Koharu was blind. Since none of the four want to stay out too late, they decide to walk home together. As Kakeru trails behind the group, he gazes up at the moon and realizes that Koharu can't see it. He can't help but think that if he suddenly lost his eyesight, he would never be as optimistic as Koharu. Curious, Ushio asks Koharu why she attended the welcome party. She happily answers that she wanted the new experience. Kakeru quietly thinks it's a strange reason. Yuko moves beside Kakeru, making him worry since Koharu had been relying on Yuko to guide her earlier. Yuko assures him that Koharu will be fine. Curious, Kakeru asks if she and Koharu have been friends for a long time. Yuko admits they only met at the entrance ceremony. She then tells Kakeru about the university's student guide program, where volunteers assist students with disabilities, and mentions that she is participating in the program. She also explains that Koharu specifically asked for her assistance today because she wanted to experience a college mixer. Hearing all of this, Kakeru can't help but think that Koharu is amazing. As they continue walking, Yuko asks whether Kakeru has introduction to computer science on Monday mornings. He admits that he does and openly says he dislikes the class. Ushio points out that Koharu feels the same way. Yuko then asks if Kakeru would be interested in becoming a student guide. She explains that she'd like him to help Koharu, even if it's only during that one class. Before Kakeru can answer, they hear a loud clatter ahead of them. They see that Koharu accidentally bumped into a parked bicycle. Koharu immediately apologizes, but Yuko tells her that accidents like this happen because people leave their bicycles in the middle of the walkway. Yuko returns to her earlier question and asks again whether Kakeru is interested in becoming a student guide. Unable to give her an answer, Kakeru promises to think it over. Yuko then asks for his contact information. After saving his number, she cheerfully tells him she'll be counting on him to take care of Koharu. As they continue their walk, Kakeru quietly thinks about the situation he's being pushed into. He wanted to refuse because he's never been good at making friends. Growing up, he constantly had to move from place to place after his mother's divorce. Over time, he learned that standing out often brought resentment from others. Because of that, he chose to stay inside his own little bubble. Eventually, the group arrives at Koharu's apartment complex and is surprised by how large the building is. They are just about to leave her at the entrance when loud crackling sounds suddenly echo across the sky. Ushio quickly spots the source and realizes that fireworks are being set off near the university. Koharu immediately becomes excited and tries to move toward where Ushio and Yuko are standing. Unfortunately, she loses her balance and begins falling. Luckily, Kakeru catches her before she can fall. Realizing what just happened, Koharu quietly comments that Kakeru's hands are very warm. She apologizes for causing trouble, but Kakeru brushes it off. He gently guides her over to where Ushio and Yuko are standing, but by the time they arrive, the fireworks have already ended. Koharu smiles and says that although she can't see fireworks, she still likes them. She hopes that someday she'll be able to set off fireworks together with her friends. Kakeru finds that wish a little strange since she won't be able to see them. When Monday arrives, Kakeru reluctantly drags himself to class. As soon as he enters the classroom, he notices Koharu already sitting inside, quietly reading a braille book. He deliberately chooses a seat in a column away. Just then, he receives a message from Yuko reminding him to take care of Koharu. He feels like being a student guide is a burden, but he glances over to check on her. She doesn't seem to have noticed that he's there. When she turns a page, her bookmark slips out of the book and falls to the floor without her realizing it. After a short debate with himself, Kakeru decides to pick up the bookmark. He quietly greets her, but she doesn't notice him. He tries again a little louder, and this time she reacts. He can tell she still isn't sure if he's talking to her, so he says her name. Koharu guesses that it's him, admitting she's only identifying him by his voice. She explains that it was easier because his voice falls in the fa range instead of the do range where most people's voices are. Kakeru wonders if that means she has perfect pitch. In response, Koharu pretends to play an invisible piano and explains that she's been playing since she was little. Feeling awkward, Kakeru tries to hand her the bookmark back. However, she only gives him a confused expression. He gently places it against her fingers and explains that she dropped it. Finally understanding, she thanks him for being so kind. The professor enters the classroom and Kakeru quickly returns to his seat. As class drags on, Kakeru's eyes wander back to Koharu. He notices that instead of writing with a notebook, she's using a braille typewriter to take notes. When class ends, Kakeru packs up his things and realizes he may have been wrong for assuming Koharu lived a difficult life. He's about to leave when he hears something metallic hit the floor. Looking over, he sees Koharu searching for her white cane, which has rolled a few steps away. He glances around and realizes everyone else has already left the classroom. He silently scolds himself for hesitating and hoping someone else would help her instead. At the same time, a small part of him is relieved that no one is around to see him helping her. He tells Koharu that he'll pick it up before handing her the cane. Koharu says that maybe she should tie a bell to it. Kakeru points out that the bell would stop making noise once the cane stopped rolling. Realizing he's right, Koharu lets out a small laugh at her own silly idea. Later, the two head toward the elevator and discover they both have some free time. Koharu mentions that Yuko messaged her earlier to say she'd be busy today. Sensing that Kakeru might be curious, she offers to show him how she uses messaging apps despite being blind. They stop in front of a vending machine and Kakeru offers to help her buy a drink. However, Koharu insists she can handle this part herself and confidently presses one of the buttons. Curious, Kakeru asks how she knew which drink to pick when she couldn't see the choices. Koharu explains that this is her personal vending machine. Kakeru jokingly asks if her family owns a vending machine company. Understanding the joke, Koharu giggles and admits she's surprised he can make jokes like that. Kakeru wonders if he comes across as someone too gloomy to joke around. She laughs again, leaving Kakeru confused about what she found funny this time. Once she calms down, she explains that this is simply the vending machine she uses most often, so she already knows exactly which button to press for her favorite drink. If she uses an unfamiliar vending machine, she might accidentally buy canned red bean soup instead of milk tea. Kakeru comments that it actually sounds kind of fun before quickly apologizing. Koharu doesn't seem offended at all and even admits that the unexpected surprises can sometimes be enjoyable. Still, dealing with them every day would be troublesome, so she usually sticks to the vending machine she already knows. She also shares that Yuko once explained every button on this particular machine so she'd know where everything was. Kakeru asks if that means she memorized every single button. Koharu smiles and admits that she only memorized the buttons for milk tea and sugar. The conversation makes Kakeru realize how easy it is to forget that she's blind whenever they talk normally. After finding a place to sit, Koharu opens her smartphone and demonstrates the screen reader she uses to read messages aloud. She explains how the different taps and gestures work to navigate her phone. As for typing messages, she usually relies on voice input, though she admits it often creates typos. She also mentions that she and Ushio have already exchanged contact information. Smiling, Koharu tells Kakeru that blind people generally live lives that aren't all that different from everyone else. Kakeru finds the way she says it strangely disarming. Unlike her, he still finds it difficult to tell people that he grew up in a single-parent household. A wall seems to exist between them, though he knows it's mostly one he's created himself. He reminds himself that all he really has to do is listen to what she says and respond naturally. His thoughts are interrupted when Koharu asks for his contact information. She holds out the QR code on her phone so he can add her. After saving her contact, Kakeru notices that her profile picture features an unfamiliar flower. Somewhere deep in his mind, the same flower quietly begins to surface. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see what happens next.